classes and read some books throughout my life, and I look back at them. In fact, I was looking at some of them when I was preparing to do this demonstration today. The lady who has had 3, 4, maybe 5 articles in the Artist and the American Artist, posted all over America as a tremendous art instructor. And I pulled out the sheets that we had there, and she has a big drawing, and then you trace it on a canvas. Then she mixes up colors, 1/3 blue, 2/3 something else, and then 1/4 something else. And then you mix that, and then you get it just that exact shade, and then you have a chart in front of you, you put that down there, and then we start, and it was just a glorified paint by numbers. And at that time I learned something from it, but I look back at it, and what I'm going to try to do today is to get you, if you are artists or if you are just interested in art, I want to make your experiences with art more fun, as it has been to me. In other words, people know me, I'm selfish, egotistical, self-centered, whatever you want to call it. But I know certain things in art.
That's just what Ginger thinks.
Well, she's a very good judge. But anyway, and so I want some participation from you. I want, and what is good for me, what is right for me, it might not be for someone else. And what I want to develop is the confidence in yourself and the things that are in you that make you appreciate art, looking at art, or appreciate doing art yourself. And so today, some of you saw my demonstration last year at this time, and it was a painting. And anyway, I was asked to do a workshop and a demonstration in Brookings. And so they hung this picture that I did here at this workshop, or this demonstration last year, and they hung it up, and I heard some people talking about it, and they didn't know I was listening, and they didn't like that and didn't like that. You know, if you're standing in front of you, it's really nice. Yeah. But, you know, if you sneak up behind them, then you find out what they really think of it. And so they were thinking of that. And everybody has different opinions. And I like to know, like Greta's, I like to know her opinions. That way I know how little she knows about art. But we all differ.
I'll get you for that.
Is that a promise or a threat? But you know what I'm trying to say. In other words, I've enjoyed art, and I've told this story before, and I hate to repeat it, but to me it's part of my life. And the way I paint, the way I do things, the enjoyment I get from it is not what's happening to me now in my life. It's what happened to me when I was younger. And some of us have all different kinds of experiences, and these are emotional things that develop and show in our art. And men are different than women.
Well,
and, I learned that in biology in school. One of the few things I learned in school that I realized is probably true. But anyway, I forgot what I was going to say.
Men and women are different.
That's nothing new. All right.
and
Anyway,
you revert to your childhood.
we revert to our
Paint
childhood
now.
when you're painting. In other words, you get into the right side of your brain and things like that. And so if you all want to ask questions, that's fine today. And if I completely ignore you, I'm not mad at you. Fortunately, sometimes I get into the right side of my brain, and you have to hit me pretty hard to get me out of there. Other times, you know, anything bothers me. But anyway, so today, since they don't pay much for these demonstrations, I'm not going to do all the work. And so, I know, can you sort of focus in on some of these?
Oh, this is that beautiful.
Okay.
And so, these are some pictures.
Birch.
Good.
There.
Okay, so now those of you in the back of the room that have nicer clothes on and don't want to sit up so close. So what do you see in this? What do you recognize in this first, right off? What do you recognize? The trees. Okay.
The autumn.
Now here, this is a
That looks like spring.
Spring, but not quite as emphatic as the other one was.
That's fall again. Beautiful. I never did a picture with reds like that.
And the main thing
Natural.
is color, right? In other words, this is the thing that catches your eye here. Okay, so as a painter, you've got to develop a center of interest, okay? And so what we are doing here is first of all, this was an object, a striking object. And what did we have in here? We had value changes. Jeez. And these people are glad here I used to do the order. Anyway, so there's different things that catch our eye. And so whatever you paint, I don't care what it is, if it interests you and you like it, paint it. If it interests, you know, and don't worry if somebody else likes it or doesn't like it. You know, paint for yourself, paint for your own enjoyment.
Pretty.
Reflections.
You're breaking my neck,
Look up there.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's sort of a little island or whatever. And it's a shape. So there's different things that we notice in things.
Looks like Canada.
These are all pictures that I took when I lived in Montana. You can see they're all different sizes. And so some are 20 years old. But
Sorry.
There you go. Oh, yeah, against your chest. Right there. That's
Yeah.
Some more objects.
You want it right there? Oh, okay, but here, the mountains, mountain tops are what we catch in the flying glimpse of a picture here.
I think he's talking to you. No, you gotta hold it straight.
Oh, no.
There.
There.
Just a little help from the
It's like
projectionist there.
Montana.
You got it?
Okay.
Nice fall colors.
Okay. I'm sure glad I cleaned my fingernails. I was digging out gopher holes yesterday. Anyway, so this is not any, I mean, here's color again, but no particular shape and things like that. No particular silhouette.
Oh, that's pretty.
I gotta do things backwards. So say here, there's a bunch of nice things, but no one particular center of interest.
Hey.
Yeah.
The fence.
Beautiful fence. That's beautiful.
Fits, okay, and the trees.
Yeah.
And the contrast in the value of the trees. In other words, if this was black and white, nothing, I mean, it's a nice picture, but there's nothing that strikes you right again. Okay. Water.
Is it the mountain or the tree?
Water the mountain. So there's different things. Again, it strikes different people. I was at in a gallery, biscuit gallery up in Gold Beach. I was painting there. They featured me 1 month or something. But anyway, I was talking to this lady, and she seemed real interested in it. And it was a sunset of a seascape that I was painting. And so I said, let's go, come on up, and I'll, you know, because we were talking about it from 8 or 10 feet away, and she was interested as an artist and things like that. And I said, come on up here, I'll show you. Well, she wouldn't go up there, and I didn't know why. And she says, it's too hot to get that close. And so we are all, I don't know what happened to her in the past, but she had a very strong psychological feeling. She enjoyed the painting, but she didn't want to get close to it. When I had this little gallery down here, this one lady was in there, and she wouldn't get up close to some of my seascapes, you know. And I'm sure she was hit by it. And I do a lot of seascapes where I'm sitting right down on the beach, you know, not looking down at them. But I'm sure that maybe she was caught by a sneaker wave or something like that. So our paintings are all affected differently by all the viewers we have. So here's just a, well, you all can see good enough. It's just, they're just pictures. Now these are all source materials. Here, this is another one, okay, so they all give you an idea. Oh, here's an interesting thing. These were taken about the same time, it was at least on the same trip, and you can see it was around noon or something like that. But look at the color of the mountains in one picture, and look at the color of mountains in another picture.
Yeah.
And the sky too.
And so you have a different feeling looking at these two pictures, because color affects us psychologically. And so these are all things that we want to keep in mind. So I'm going to put these pictures up here and try to develop a painting here today.
You brought the ladder with you?
Yes.
That ingenious contraption, look at that simple ladder.
Yeah. For you artists that are on a high budget, you can get a real nice thing. And then this is nice to demonstrate and give workshops and things like that. Now, when I was talking to Greta and Chuck earlier, you know, what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. So I was going to try to think of some things, getting myself something I didn't know how it was going to work, and in a way almost, in other words, this is a good thing before you do a painting. Start a painting and think about what you can't do, and then strive to get that. And even though you're going to fail, that's fine. But that's when you're going to learn the most. And so we have two different grounds here. And so I was going to paint on this, and then
What is that?
This is masonite, 1/4 inch masonite with a gesso and a primer on it. And it's slick. And so I painted on it yesterday, trying to get ready for, you know, I took a shower to come here today, and I tried to paint a little bit so, to get ready. But anyway, I found out some things that really was very surprising on this slick surface. I couldn't do certain things that I wanted to do. I could do certain things I couldn't do on that. So it's good to paint on this or to paint on that. But I was having so much trouble yesterday. I don't know, in the amount of time that I have today, I don't mind screwing up and doing bad things, but I want you to enjoy it. And then maybe it's just as good that you see a guy mess up. And so we'll use this here. Give me a harder time. I'm a competitor. I compete. And, one of the hardest things in art is to get these things on the easel. Yeah. You know? And then when I was talking to Greta and Chuck, they were telling me, you know, about the things I was going to have to do. This is just a real cheap easel that I drilled holes in here. And so anyway, that's it. So now we're going to, Ginger was supposed to put some, do you have any vine charcoal here? Or anything like that? A chalk, pastel, anything?
Yes.
Pastel.
I will look in my car
Any pastel or chalk?
Yes, I know I have that. Preferably black.
I don't care, just so we can see it.
It seemed misleading, that black with the pink.
Yeah.
It's interesting, it's different.
So with your help, or just a pencil,
Don't get going.
Yeah, I guess we,
Catches your imagination.
well, of course.
are there to be broken. And what is important to you is not important to her, you know, and things like that. We all feel differently. We react differently. We eat a hot Mexican dinner, we might react differently, you know, than if you. So anyway, so there's certain principles for center of interest, and then some people like Sandy Bonnie, she really likes one strong center of interest. Other people like other center of interest. So you all have told me what you thought was sort of important in those things today, and so we will work with those. And develop a composition and
You just-
all right. One thing, if you remember anything that I say, remember three. Three. You know what I mean by three? Why? Okay, you must be my right. Okay. It's a third is a good number. In other words, if your painting is a third warm and 2/3 cold, or vice versa, you should have within an object or a shape, you should have a third of it a stronger value and some a lesser value. And I don't know what I'd do without you, Greta.
Or two.
I use vine charcoal because then I can wipe it off when I make mistakes real easily. But
I don't use
Here's
charcoal.
here's a Connie crayon pencil.
just a piece of your chalk.
When I copy, I use soft pencils.
This will show.
Okay.
Yeah, that shows. And it comes off. This is just.
There you go.
Okay, here's about a third. Divided a third here, divided a third here. So that should be primarily where your centers of interest are. That's a rule, which is fine to break. But if you don't know where if you break a rule, have a reason for it. And you can break rules and make a painting more dynamic, you can make it less forceful, you can make it more passive. Horizontal lines have a certain psychological meaning to different people. Horizontal lines mean things. Diagonal lines. I had a student in class one time and doing one of these classes where I'd do something and then they'd do it. And I don't like these too much. But anyway, she wasn't doing anything, you know, and I know she'd been married, so she probably had been taught a little bit on what was told. But anyway, she was doing these things, and I didn't get after me, you know, I said, now, this is the way we want to do this. I said, and I mentioned something, I don't know what it was that I mentioned, but anyway, she called me up later, and she says, the $35 I paid for your workshop that day was worth 10 times what that $100 bill from the psychiatrist for a half an hour. We were having a peaceful, tranquil scene, you know, and here she was making it dramatic, look like a storm just moving in, and you better get away from the beach or you might get swamped, you know, things like that. And she's having all these diagonal lines in it and things like that. And so she created this very unrestful, and this is the problem she was having. She was working with her psychiatrist. And, but anyway, so here we got. So here you guys like this little island here, okay? This island. And then these trees here. Just sort of move this down a little bit. Okay, I put the bottom of the thing about a third. Well, now that I look at it, this mass, the whole mass should be down a little bit lower. So I changed it. So So keep an open mind all the time.
Yeah.
And so now we'll put some of these trees in here. And then this, oh, we ought to get the mountains in. They're over here. Okay, now we got different height peaks. And what are we going to do? Everything that I do here is affected by here, affected by here. Every color I put here is affected by what is surrounding it. And this is why I am sure today I will mix some things someplace, and I'll come up here and it'll have one feeling here. And then if you put it on this white palette, it'll have a different feeling. And then, wow, I put it up here on this pink, and it's an entirely different color. And we just heard a thing on television this morning about they've got some dogs that sent these cell phones out in prisons, and I guess, but they say they can only work for 30, 40 minutes, because then they can't pick up that scent for that longer period. And this is true with your eyes. In other words, if you're going to finish a painting and you want it to be good at the end, get away from it and then come back to it, and then don't paint for more than a half an hour. Now this has been told to me by greater people than me, and so I think it's probably true. But I do know that I will be fairly happy with the painting at night and wake up the next morning and know somebody come down and chew that thing up. I would not have left that like that. You know? And I don't drink all the time. But you know what I'm saying. You have a different feeling, a sense. You know, this is the old expression, if you got a problem, sleep on it. And I guess a lot of those things, painting is like chess compared to checkers, you know. You've got so many things going on, and everything you do reacts differently. Okay, so now we got to put the mountains in. Now, I am thinking of having this sort of a dark mass coming in here. And so on my photo here, I have the highest peak there. So to me, I think it would be better to have the highest peak here and then coming down here, because this is going to be covered up a lot here. And that will make this not a center of interest, but it'll make it a point or an area that is interesting. I think of painting, if you do a small painting or a large painting, if you do a lot of detail or a little detail, I don't care what you do or how you think about it, if you have some interest, how many, and I know I'm seeing you, which is good, because I should have brought some of mine. In other words, I will end up, I could cut this painting off right here, because nothing's happening over here to
Right.
add to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Okay. So let's get our mountains in here. So we'll put this tallest one right up here.
Gus, the more you can stay to the left, to the side there.
You told me that last year.
You need a longer arm.
Yeah, right. The long arm of the law. Okay, so,
Tetons.
okay, now we're gonna have these other trees coming in here. And, okay, now here's the back of this thing here. And, oh, we forgot our birch trees. I got a little bit of everything you want in here, except the birch trees. So, now, whenever I put something in or do something with value, with color, with hue, with direction, line, drawing, it's all, in other words, certain things here lead you over to here. Certain things here lead you here. It keeps your eye within the painting, and keep that in mind. Just like in chess, you got to realize what all these different guys are going to be doing or what they can do. And remember what you can do with value, what you can do with hue or color, what you can do with intensity, chroma, grain. Some of the first instructors I went to, oh, you can tell a great artist by how he handles his gray. I painted the dullest, gringiest grays paintings for a long time. And then I got, you know, and so now I'm pushing color a little bit more. And in drawing, most important thing, I don't care what you're going to draw. Somebody was talking to me, this lady was talking to me today about drawing things, talking about the roses that I did last year. And she wanted to learn some more about that. So I told her right then all she needed to know in 15 seconds.
Thank you.
You know? And what did I tell her? I told her, get the silhouette. And this is when I used Greta as a prop. And I put Greta right next to me. And just draw an outline of both of us. And no matter who in here would look at it would know which one it was Greta and which one was me. You know? And so silhouette, and so then within the silhouette, then you get value, and then you get color. And then there you got your rose. But you can't, it's not as simple as it sounds. Yes, you gotta do it a bunch of times and things like that. But each time you do it, it gets a little bit more into your subconscious. You know, in other words, I was doing some things in this workshop I had, and somebody says, "Why did you do that?" I don't know. You know, something 10, 15, maybe years ago, or 10 or 15 paintings ago, or 50 paintings ago, I learned something that has become part of me that I'm not aware of. And so, just because what if I critique your thing? I'm not critiquing it. I'm telling you what I think. And so this is that, I gotta tell this is really interesting. This demonstration I did here, some of you saw it last year. So then I took it back and I had this workshop. And so then I had the students come in there and they were telling me things they didn't like about it. And I told them they were all ugly and they needed to take a shower. So they were mad at me, so that way they would tell me the truth of what they thought about my painting. But anyway, I was going back and forth, and then these two ladies, they got in a cat fight over what, you know, was up here, because they thought I should change that, and the other one thought I shouldn't. And boy, this made me really happy, because what they were doing is, I was teaching them more in that 5 minutes than I was that whole morning, because I wasn't bringing out their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, their artistic, creative ability was being brought out. And what one lady liked, the other one didn't like, and vice versa. And that doesn't mean that one of them's right or wrong. We are all different, okay? And we all have different experiences. Then there was this one little lady, and she had a foreign accent. And you know, foreign women are much more aggressive, unless, not the Muslim, the foreign women, the Germans, the French, the English, they're much more outspoken, you know. And so she was really going at it with me. And I realized this. So then I actually went against some of the things that I really thought to stimulate her to, you know, jack her up a little bit. And she'd get a little more upset. And there was this one guy in the class, and he was a nice guy. He says, "Oh, knock it off, you two. Cool it off, you two. You're not married." And so, but that was fun. And so then later on, we talked, and we became good. She wasn't upset at me at all. But she was getting close to the right side of her brain, and she couldn't help but let her feelings come out. And so this makes me happiest, because then, if she can get into those moods, then she can bring these things out when she does her art. And what pleases this lady is not going to please that lady, or that lady, or that lady. You know, we're all different, and we all like different things. And if you ever do a painting and you're really happy with it, quit painting, because you're not going to improve anymore. You know, but what does improvement mean? It means, to me, it means enjoying painting and enjoying it yourself. Because no matter what you do, you're going to find somebody that says it's nice, and you're going to find some people that don't like it. And people come up, when you're at an art show or something like that, and people come up and they know you're the artist, and they're looking at the painting, and they look at it, and it just doesn't match them at all. It doesn't work with anything with them. And they look at it, no, they've got to say something because they're taught by their mother since they're little kids. You've got to be polite and say something nice to people. So they look at it and say, that's a lovely frame. And so, anyway, so now we got, like Greta said, you're going to have trouble getting so many ladies happy and satisfied, but I'm going to try. And so we got the mountains, we got some of these trees, we got this island, we got those trees, and okay. I thought we didn't. Okay, here's one. This has got a little foreground. Now we got to have some foreground in here. Now we're not going to have a straight foreground, so we're going to run this foreground sort of like that. So now, okay, and then see these back hills here. This is a big space between here and here. Remember I said, whenever you have a space, you're going to need to put something in it. And even if it's bad, something is better than nothing, I think, sometimes. So then we'll have like these trees here, so we'll have some of these trees here, and then maybe a few little taller ones coming in here. And let's bring, see these foothills in here.
Yeah.
Now how, do I want to bring that this way? Do I want to bring it that way? If I bring it this way, it's going to sort of bring it over here. That's going to bring our eye that way. If I bring it this way, it's going to bring it over here. All right. I think at this time this is going to be my main center of interest.
Right.
Now that's another thing. If you're doing a painting, copy this painting and make these mountains a center of interest. And you can do that with edges. You can do it with values. You can do it with hue. There's so many things that you can use. If you go into a football game, you don't go in with one play. You go in with a bunch of plays. And so I think if we now this height, that's a tangent. In other words, I want to bring this. There, now it's not a tangent.
There it's ready.
A tangent is two things at the same, meeting at the same place. From where you are sitting, my fingers are probably a tangent to the top of this, if I have a direct line. Okay? And so I don't want all these peaks to be, you notice unconsciously, we brought these up. I didn't think about this when I did this because I've done a bunch of these. This is why to become a good artist, and a good artist is I consider a good artist a person that's happy with his work. Van Gogh. How many of you have sold a painting? Okay. So a lot of you are up with Van Gogh already. He only sold one painting in his lifetime. And all the great critics and art people at that time thought he was terrible. And so anyway, so
Like bright colors.
okay. Now, can you all see where I'm going?
Yep.
Do any of you have any strong objections to anything? That's what Greta said. They were all nice ladies.
Good.
Got water in there.
Okay, so now I've got my silhouette.
Yeah.
Now all I got to do is fill it in. And
I can step aside if you want to, like, get a nice close-up of it.
so now I'm going to do something which I didn't know how to do, which I figured that I wanted to do so I could help myself. And as I say, Lorelei up in Brookings, she got a whole bunch of students, so I started the class when we had this 4 days. So I said I was really glad that Lorelei was able to get so many stupid people. I got their attention. And so I says, because you all are paying me, and I'll tell you right now, I am going to learn, I'm going to benefit much more from giving this class than any of you will get from taking it. And you're paying me.
That's right.
So, anyway, that's the way I look from it. So, as much as you can get from it, I am happy from it. If you want to ask some questions, I'll argue with you to stimulate your thinking on how you think. Okay, now we're going to have this problem that I decided I wanted to paint on that because I might have a problem here. And so, okay, now the manufacturers of art supplies are just like the manufacturers of medical supplies in the United States. They're liars. And so we don't know. All I do know is that a lot of the products that we use have toxic things in them. You breathe toxic air when you came here and things like that. And then on our paints, they say that these health standard, like your flake white, had a lot of lead in it. So we don't use that. Naples yellow, the old Naples yellow, the new Naples yellow is a little bit different. It doesn't have as many toxic things in it. So what have I told you? There are some things that we know have toxic in it. There's, in 10 years from now, some of these that say they're okay, they're going to say they have toxic things in it, okay? So what did I put on my hand? Baby oil. You can wear gloves and things like that, and it might not mean anything, but almost all of my students are people that I give demonstrations for. I want them to realize that they are handling toxic things. Not as bad as the cigarettes they smoke, probably, but it is there, and I want you to be aware of it. Particularly oils, which we use the turpentine, the solvents, and things like that. But in the different colors, the things that they grind down, your cadmiums, titaniums. When I started, titanium was fine. Then there was a lady in Brookings that got a reaction from titanium, which is, and so anyway. So now, and then the medium
I like the smell of turpentine.
which I will be
myself,
using
but-
later today is a medium that I make, and it's stand oil and turp. How much you want to know? It varies. I pour some in. But I started out by a book I read, and it said 1 stand to 3 turp. And so it's close to that. Then I noticed that after you use it for a while, the turp evaporates and gets a little bit thicker, so it's maybe 50-50. But anyway, it makes the things handle a little bit differently. So I will be using that later on. Okay, so now here on colors, I put all these out to confuse you. God, do you need to use all these? No, you don't need to use all these. But I don't care if you just use 3 colors. You should learn those 3 colors and know what you can do with them. Learn if they're transparent or opaque. Learn if they are a stainer or not. Learn if they are a fast or a slow dryer. These are things. And learn those things. And after you've used them 2 or 3 times, you know, well, damn it, now I can't get this ultramarine blue. It's almost, can't even use it anymore, it's so thick. And this other stuff, it's 5 days older and still very fluid. And so, and then different manufacturers have different ones. I was in a class one time, and so I was talking about a brush I had, and I had used it, and he said, how much is that brush? And I said, oh, this is expensive. He said, oh, I just thought that was about an $8 brush. And I said, well, I wouldn't sell it for that. Okay, I bought it. It was an $8 brush when I started. But then I had worked on it long enough that it was down to a certain stage, and then I could handle it. And it was worth $30 to me.
Yeah.
Because I had worn it down to that. Then after it wears a little bit more, then it's gone again. So your brushes are all things. So let's have you all, I hope, done a little bit of thinking ahead and knowing where the values are going to be in this picture, and what you're going to do with it, how you're going to bring it out. I gotta tell this story too. We had some classes back in Montana, and for ever since, I think, well, from the very beginning when I started teaching class, I started talking, the most important thing is values. Values, values, values. And you don't have, you sent me a thing with Leah's around.
No, she had to leave.
Oh, she took a picture of the painting here, and then a picture after I had worked at my workshop with it, and you look at it, they had a copy of it here. But anyway, if you look at those things, anyway, I was always teaching values. So then there was this guy that came in at a jury show, and it was a nice thing in that the artist came in, and he was a juror, and then after the show or before the show or something, he came around and he talked about everybody's painting, you know. And so I looked at my painting and he said, you know what value is, don't you? Oh yeah, I know what value is. I'm glad teaching people that for years. He says, you've got to learn to apply it. And this is 15 years ago or so. So I still remember him. And I still remember, I haven't learned yet, because if they have a copy of the thing they sent us about, I was going to give this thing, it has the picture that I finished here, and then the same painting after my students had told me what to do with it right, you know, in this workshop. And you look at it, squint your eyes, I don't care. You can look at it if you keep in mind, it won't take you 5 seconds. Okay. Look at this. Can you see the difference in value?
Yeah.
Now, here is this idiot, dumb Swede, 20 years, 15 years later, he still hasn't learned to apply value. He had to have some students that were paying him to teach him what to do. Okay? So, but when we paint, and so some of these things we think are subconscious in our mind, they aren't yet. So we're still changing, evolving, and things like that. And what becomes important to us, I was in the Air Force, and I was stationed over just outside of Paris. And I wasn't very interested in art, or didn't know much about art at that time. But, you know, you travel around on weekends and things like that. And I went and saw a bunch of these pictures that were drawn by these Jewish people in the, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Concentration.
And, yeah. But anyway, and so you should have seen the feeling that these, you know, people had. I mean, these people didn't know anything about art at all. Yet they were sitting there dying and knowing some of their friends had just been killed, knowing when are they going to get it next, starving and having to work and things like that. And yet you could see this feeling in it. Van Gogh's The Potato Eaters, you all seen that? You notice those funny looking faces. You know, nobody looked like that, looks like that exactly. But he gave a feeling of the agony that these people, the lives that they were living. And so we put our emotions into these things. So, so now here goes nothing. As I say, okay, I'm going to be using turp here at first. And now, we all know that cerulean blue makes a nice sky, but I don't like,
blue sky.
I always like to add something to it, to maybe gray it, or maybe make it a little bit on the pinker side, or something like that. So, does anyone have any suggestions what they'd like me to add to it today? I'm real easy at the first part, you know, wait till that second part. What?
What would happen if you add an illustration?
See. I think I added too much. You see, because I knew alizarin. And I knew what alizarin would do to this. And so I just added a little bit of it. but it's turned it into sort of a pinkish color. You see? Now, is that okay?
For sundown.
Doesn't bother me. And so, okay, now we're working possibly on a tone canvas. Now, I am painting with turp as a medium. This is important. And now you all have painted, or some of you have painted, and so you know a little bit about what problems I'm going on. But to see how this runs on here, now that wouldn't do that on that canvas. So this is something that's a little bit different. Now, if you could come up, and don't do this, if you would come up here and just take a picture of that, and get a great picture of that, you look up tomorrow morning and take another great picture of that, it's going to look different. It's going to dry different, it's going to change. Watercolorists know this as much as anything, because their colors change. But oil painters change too. Alizarin Crimson you mentioned, the last 10, 15 years, alizarin crimson that you buy now is better. It is more permanent. It lasts longer. The alizarin crimson before that, it would fade a little bit with time. Okay, we're going to have our sun over here. Okay, yeah, need a little bit more. When you are, okay, are there many, if I start sentences and don't finish them, and you want to know the answer, just ask me. And if I haven't forgot, I'll answer it. I'm trying to darken this a little bit on this side, because we have our sun coming from here. Okay? So then, when we get over here,
Gotta lighten it up.
we're going to lighten it up, and we're also going to what? Change its temperature. Right. And so,
Warm color.
now today, right now, for you that are up close, you can probably see a little bit of this pink showing through there. I don't know if you all can see that in the back or not. But now, we're going to get over here, so I'm going to add a little bit of...
Do you usually paint on the pink?
If I have a pink board, I do.
Okay. There was a reason why you chose the pink. Wanted to do your just graphic.
No, I had this primer and gesso and things like that, and that was the color it was. Okay, now I did have a reason for that. Is because, yes, I like to sell, but I like people to like my paintings or, sort of enjoy them other than just lying because they gotta be nice. But a warm picture is going to be more accepted generally than a cool picture. And so, like as I say, some of this pink is already showing through there, you see. And so, this is why I chose pink to start out with for my ground. I've got a whole bunch of masonite boards and cut them up. And so, then there's toning, that you bring this up, and you can work on different tone canvases. You can have underpaintings. It's a whole different world. I don't care. I don't see any teenagers in here. But they aren't young enough that they're going to, there'll be things that they can learn the next 70, 80 years of their life, And so we want to warm this up a little bit to the right. Warm it up and also what? Lighten it a little bit. Now that's real strong. Now the yellow combining with the blue, it creates this greenish appearance. Does it bother anybody?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, if it does, just let me know and you can come up and change it. It was a little bit strong there at that edge, so I just took some more white. And now, as I'm coming across here, what is the light in a day? It slowly goes over here. This is a funny light here. There's entirely different light on here than on here.
Yeah.
Can you see that? And so
That kind of
this is
light
going to be exciting to see
always
what this looks
different.
like in a steady light.
Yourself in the mirror,
You
one
know.
of them over this different than.
So what I'm going to do,
It bothers me that the three mountains are all basically the same shape, even though they're bigger and smaller, but there isn't, they're all basically pointed the same way.
okay.
Yeah.
Very, very good point. That's a very good point. You know, a lot of you others, you know, see these two peaks here, you know, it's some people that have eyes. But,
Yeah, it's changing.
let's see,
As you
how
paint.
we can change.
I liked it the way it was.
Difference in opinion. Change it on the paint
Okay.
Much better.
It is hard to satisfy a bunch of women.
Take it back.
We can do that very easily. All right, now I've got some paint here.
That's got to reflect that time.
So we've got some reflection, which would come from the sky. The sky, water usually reflects the sky unless it's completely covered with other things. So where else do we have reflection? So I'm working some of this into these mountains too. But see now, I can't leave those darn peaks up there. Gotta change it. Now, you know, you've done paintings and you don't notice something in them, and then later on you go back and you see something in there, and you can't get your mind away from that. Okay, so I've used up this paint, and we're in good shape. Now, you all know what we're going to put down here.
Signature.
Good job.
Okay. You all know what we're going to do down there? I thought you all had followed me. The reason I ask is I don't know either. I just realized, what the hell am I going to do down there? Here, I'm putting this around here in the water. Is this water? Is this bushes? Is this what? I don't know.
Is it a river or a lake?
So now I got more problems to worry about.
Could be grass.
Now, if this were on this side over here, we could come in here, and this could be we could make this light, and then have some darks and things around in here, and this would be a light path to lead, unconsciously, it would lead in probably 95% of Americans, okay? This is why Japanese look at things, we read from here to there, here to there, here to there. We are trained to go this way, you know, with our concentration. The Japanese are not. And so this is why their art is so, in certain ways, so dramatically different than ours, because the purpose of the artist in the painting is to direct the eye to take it through these things. Okay, so now we've got a rough idea of where we're going. Now, okay, now with this turf, as I say, the reason I am using that is because it dries up fairly fast. And then I can work on it later, and I won't be, if I use this medium here, and I put this guy in, then I'd have trouble when I would combine things, because then they would mesh. It'd be more like painting wet and watercolor. I don't have a trash bucket. Can I use that hand?
Yeah, she's not here.
There we go.
Those wonderful collapsible, they're this big around and this tall, and they collapse down to nothing, and they're real cheap, and they have mesh sides, and and they're just, so the last painting class I took, he had one of those attached to his, and he just, you know, used up a whole thing of paper towels and.
You're talking about Elio.
Yeah, so that's what I picked up from Elio, is a trash can.
I'm glad you picked up some important facts from me.
Where are they available?
I gave a demonstration here several years ago, and it's the first demonstration that I gave. And I had a little gallery in Brookings at the time, and I came and I talked about things. And then I talked about how I was almost bald 40 years ago, and some things I had done. And anyway, a lot of the people that had seen the play came in and talked to me at my gallery, and I was really happy. Oh, I saw you at you gave your demonstration. I was really happy they'd come in and see my demonstration. What did you do to get your hair to grow? They didn't give a damn about my art. They were interested in my hair. You know? And so it's really nice that Dred is interested in Elio's trash.
Garbage cans.
So, okay, so now we got to get some, well, let's go to this yellow.
Hey, Gus,
Yo,
what's the difference between mineral spirits and herb?
what I've noticed mostly on that is the spelling.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know the chemistry. Elio, he knows a lot about the chemistry of all these things. There is a difference. All solvents, mineral spirits, terp, odorless terp, terpenoid, all of them are solvents. All of them have some toxicity. So I don't know. Now the odorless terp, it doesn't give as many people headaches, but I don't know what it does to their bloodstream. You know, and so this is why I like to have ventilation around when you're painting, particularly in classes where there's light.
Have you tried those, what's that wonderful?
Yeah, they're water-based.
No, not water. He doesn't use terpenoids, he only uses walnut oil.
Walnut oil, and he used to use.
And his oil paints themselves are pigment plus walnut oil.
Yeah.
And it has no odor, and to clean your hands, you just use more walnut oil.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, but that walnut oil is the same as stand oil or safflower oil or all these different oils. That's just one type of it. They all, and you could not use that now at this stage of a painting if you're painting this way. I'm not saying this is the way you should paint. I'm not saying that's the way you should paint.
Because it would make it too gooey?
It would make it too gooey, and it wouldn't set up and get tacky as fast.
True.
And you notice I haven't taken my cap off of this. Why? Because I'm a slow learner. And I know that when I paint up here, I'm gonna be thinking about 10 other things that I would be dumping in there, and I'd have all this mixed in with this paint here at this time. So I recognize my handicaps, and I try to avoid them as much as possible. Okay, so, and then there's liquid. Liquid is another, a medium that you use, which does dry things, but it dries it differently. Now, all your mediums, your oils and liquids and things like that, when they dry, they have a shine to them. This will dry very dull, and things like that. And so this is a problem that you have with this when you're painting this way. Now, when you paint like you're talking about with Elio, where you start out using an oil that has a certain kind of oil in it, and then you use that oil as a medium, then you will end up evenly with your shine and dullness in the different parts of the painting. However, if you use more medium with the paint, use the same color of paint, but you use more a medium with one than the other, it will have a different sheen to it too.
I don't think he uses a Graham oils.
Okay. Who brought that up?
I thought, I didn't want you to think that I was saying that he used Graham.
But
No.
you do, don't you?
I do.
Now, we all know what Gretchen uses. Not Gretchen,
Greta.
Greta.
Nobody caught it.
Okay, now,
I needed it.
now that we're going in here on these trees here, now I gotta decide where I want this tree, and I'm not, now see, this is a brighter yellow, so what I'm doing now is I am putting in, now you see the way that didn't slide on there? Now, when that didn't slide like that, then what does that tell me? It tells me that this is not going to dry as fast as some of these other places. So I went back in there and I'm adding a little bit more turf. Now I got to decide, do I want this tree to be a little bit taller or a little bit shorter? Taller. Okay, thank you. Any-
That is about how my trees looked. They don't look like trees, and green. I painted pictures in all colors, and it looked just like
Okay,
awful. Threw it out.
now what I'm doing is, I'm putting in these dark areas up here. And I'm doing it very carefully, because I want to leave the right impression.
What did you mix with that?
This is burnt sienna, and what I'm putting in here now is burnt umber.
Yep, the two browns.
What did I say is the most important thing on paintings? Value.
Values.
Right. And so I'm getting rid of some of my problems already, okay? Are you bothering me? This guy, you know, he heard about the thing that it was going to be $10 for the class after the first one, so he made plans to go out of town. So we wouldn't have to pay the $10. Talk about cheap. You know? Okay, now we got those. Now we got to get into. Now you notice I go down in here in the turf to clean my brush. No, I just want some turf on. Because now.
Oils and acrylics, I haven't done a lot of colors, yeah.
Now I'm going to look at this here and Okay, now I should, since my center of interest is this, I should sort of plan this first, right? Isn't that right?
And build around it?
Yeah.
There's a birch
Sure.
tree.
Or just get something down. I'm getting something down now. How do I want to have trees like that? Or do I want to have, okay, see this silhouette of this tree? You know it's a certain tree. Now see the silhouette of that tree right there? Similar. See the silhouette of those trees? It's different.
Yeah.
You know? And what do I know, what do I think now? I don't mind screwing up. As I said, I put the wrong color in there, that's okay. Now I've got to decide, do I want a mass of trees like that, or what do I want? That'll be easy for me to do.
Well, you've gotta mix them up anyway, because you already have the aspen on the side.
Yeah. Okay. So,
If you make it dark, then you can put that lovely white, what do they call those white ones? Birch. Birch.
Aspen or birch.
Birch in front.
oh, I forgot about that here.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Now I'm getting happy with that. I'm beginning to get a sort of a feeling for it.
Are you using a couple different shades of green?
Yeah, I'm using this one and that one, which is sap green and viridian. And just to keep her happy, I'll put a little. Now you see the difference in that where I put terra verde in there? You all see the difference in that? I can't. But it's just you have an idiot up here talking to you, and you just want to be nice and polite and say, yeah. Now you can see a difference in that, not because of the green I brought in, but because I had some of this on this brush and I turned the brush over, which is fine. It's no problem. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother any of you, does it? No. Okay, now. Okay. We might as well stick with this green for a little bit here. And what if I'm, okay. Yeah, that wasn't my hill. Here is my hill. I don't know why you guys let me leave that up there. Okay, then we come back here. Some smaller trees.
Are you gonna leave that light stripe of blue?
Up there?
Yep.
I don't think so. In fact, look at this right now, because in an hour, you don't get to see hardly any of it anymore. It's all, I hope it's going to be changed.
You're just blocking it in, right?
I'm just blocking it in with turf, which will set fairly fast and thin. I'm trying to get sort of close to the values that I want, but now, if we have all this orange over here, is it? Let's bring a little of that over this side here. Now do you see that just adding a little bit of this orange here and there, it starts to balance it, you know, a little bit. But we got all that orange up there. it's straight in the middle. So balance is unbalanced, okay? So let's throw a little bit of that right down here. Now see how just that changed that whole
Sure
thing?
did.
I've said before, and I still think value is very important, but since this painting, I did this demonstration I did here last year, and had all those dumb students that I learned so much from in Brookings, I'm beginning to think that I'm putting composition and design first. Because if you have good composition and good design, you have to work pretty hard to screw it up with your value and your colors and things like that. In other words, if you've got poor design to start out with, you're going to have a terrible time getting good things. To me, I think this was part of it right here. See the size of this compared to the size of that, okay? These are designed that I'm just thinking about them now. I didn't think about that when I did it. Why? Because I painted a bunch of paintings and thought, I've done some great paintings. I haven't done very many good ones, but I've done a few great ones. But they're all between 2 and 5 at night. And then when I get up in the morning and go out and get a canvas, I can't do that anymore. And so I keep trying to work, you know, so that I can get down on canvas what I have in my mind in the middle of the night. But you can sort of see, but the principles that I try to, and so on this side here where the sun is, there's a little bit of yellow. We put a little of that in there. I don't know where it's going to come up. Get rid of that.
Thank you.
Make you happy. Okay. Okay, now we've got this hill back here. And that is, okay, in different pictures, this picture and this picture is those hills, and here's some more of that hill. And I have my choice of what colors I want. So what do I make? What do I decide to do? I've got to decide where I'm going in here, what I want to do with it. And in my mind, even though you guys told me what you liked, and I'm trying to work with you, that's what Chuck said. He says, try to work with these ladies. He says, I ain't going to spend $10, but I would appreciate it if you'd work with these ladies. Okay.
So what value should it be in the mid-ground like that?
In mid-bound, it should be a value between here. Okay, look up in here. There I get my, I get my value, more inspiration from these than I do my color. Okay, so it's, now see these pictures are all, you can see, that's a row of aspen back there. I don't know how well you guys can see, but I only went down in the Tetons after the tourist season, so that's when the aspens, there aren't very many aspens in the Tetons. In fact, this picture is not in the Tetons. That's the only picture that is not in the Tetons up there, because you don't find many aspen like this. You find them all around it, but you don't find them right in the Tetons. But you find some, and that's what this ridge of yellow, you see that yellowish ridge there? That is aspens in the fall. And aspens they grow where there's an access to water during their growing period. And this is a gulch which all this stuff up here drains on down here, and then it drains on down. And that's where you get the aspen. These are cottonwood. They are on your riverbanks. They have a different habitat. They grow differently. But it doesn't make any difference to 99.9% of the viewers if I make these things into aspens or if I make them into cottonwoods or what. It doesn't make any difference as a viewer of a painting.
How about a dogwood tree? Gus? You know how to just tell a dogwood tree from the rest?
Flowers.
By the bark.
Now I know why you're leaving town.
I'm thinking about ordering some dogwood trees.
They're pretty.
But they are dogwoods which are edible. They produce an edible fruit which is highly nutritious. And I wondered where you came out with dogwood, it just threw me off. I knew you were a serious thinker, figure out ways to get out of town to save $10.
Just trying to get into your film here.
Okay, so, okay, we got this here. We've got to have it a darker value, but we don't want it to be too high a chroma.
What's that?
Well, I don't want it to be too high a chroma, because that's gonna, we're gonna have, since we chose so many things that attracted you, I'm gonna have a bunch of center of interest, which would drive Sandy Bonnie nuts. She wants one thing, and so someone tell me, Gretchen, you usually lip it off a lot. Tell me what color we should put on here. I've never seen you speechless.
Dark gray,
Dark. Okay.
Purplish, bluish.
gray, brown.
I would say purple.
Ooh, way high chroma. You see that? I said, it doesn't look too bad there.
That looks like in the middle picture.
What?
It's almost like in the middle picture that you have up there with the yellow, how the color is lighter than down below.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think that's, okay, now, that's sort of too greeny, so what do I have to add to it?
The opposite, red.
Red. Red, orange, something like that.
Yeah. Get that one.
Gee, I didn't know I knew that. The same as the mountain.
But it's
Value.
value, yeah, right.
Yeah. Swallow it.
It's a wonderful brush, it's nice as long as
Whoop, turn my brush over. That's okay, doesn't bother me. I'm easy. So now I'm throwing in an underpainting here, basically. Another underpainting. Have you ever seen me paint like this, Ginger? I sure wish you'd tell me what to do next. Okay. Now, now what I have to get is a grade. Now see the way these, and that's really a dark grade, really. I'm going to put a little dioxine purple in that. I'm getting so I like dioxine purple.
That's a good color.
And, well, that's too much. Okay. We had this thing coming like this, didn't we?
Yeah.
Gestalt. Who knows what gestalt means? I'm not sure of it either.
Can't see, so.
But it has something to do with, you should work the whole painting, not just one thing. In other words, if you're doing a head, don't do the hat and the eye makeup and all that stuff. You know, do the whole thing. And now, these are patches of trees up on All right, now from back, that's another thing. You should get back quite frequently.
That looks good.
That's, to me, way high chroma.
Yeah, it is.
Why didn't somebody tell me to put some more red that was back here?
Because you would notice it as soon as you step
Okay.
in, right?
Why red? What happened to the part, that big slash you had in that top mountain?
Took it out.
This thing,
I took
It's
it out.
gone.
that guy made me take it out.
Coal mine.
Well,
I didn't like it.
Leave it to you.
made it look like Mount Hood.
Okay, now what am I gonna have back here?
Some snow.
Snow. Okay. Do I need to put anything in my underpainting back there? Sorry. But you're glad I lost some weight. Oh, I had this hill coming down here. That was where it was. Okay. How soon we forget.
Are you still gonna put your big birch in?
No,
Your big
Who
birch?
said that?
the birch has been gone a long time.
Change his
You could-
mind.
Uh,
You too red.
Well, you can tell a birch lover. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm glad you asked me that. Because as I said, I want people to see me make mistakes and how I correct them and things like that. And I learned something about this board yesterday, which doesn't bother me not to have this birch in there. So you all can think about that, why am I saying such a statement?
Probably would be hard to do on that board. Well, all the trees and there's the pine in that picture, so. Do a lot of pine trees, they're easy.
Are you using less turf with that now?
Yeah, I'm just too lazy, I guess. I wish, yes, I should have more turf in this. With my limited knowledge, I think I should have more turf in it. But that's all right. I'll learn something else. Now, does this still look too high chroma?
Much better.
It looks good.
Okay, now, we've got the sun coming from here, so then what did we have over in these other places? So we should make these trees a little bit warmer than these. We should make these cooler. I had brown on my brush, so I used brown, which gave me the value, which was halfway correct. What I should have used is what? Ultramarine blue. But brown basically is orange, and orange
This is warm,
is a hot color, or warm color. See how fun it is to make mistakes all day long? And see how just throwing that color in there, how that changed that? You see this, when you look at this and this, do you see that sun coming in here? Now I've got these two hills too much the same size. See? So you're always making mistakes. Okay, I'm fiddling around here too much. Is this, in other words, now when I get through, I might leave some of these things here. Now, does this look too bad in here?
No.
No.
Okay. So, you know how I can improve this here?
Maybe, no doubt.
No. Right, but this table, him, but that table, just keep going. So when this, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. If I'm not sure if the camera will go off, so I just have to, I'll stay here.
Now, I got too much cold in there. Too much, so that's gonna be in shadow. But I got too much cold on my brush. That's okay. I'll just add a little bit more lighter green to it. Another good thing until you get toward the end of a painting, stay away from white if you can. If you want to lighten something, go around the color wheel. Or if you want to darken something, go around the color wheel. And
Do you squint at it too?
I squint mostly.
Okay.
I don't know if you're a man or a woman. I do most of my painting like that.
Because then you can see the values so prominently.
Okay, now that I could consider is almost finished. Gestalt needs to get your painting so it's similar all the way along. Okay. Maybe on the back side of some of these ridges here, throw in a little bit of that blue. Okay. Now we got to work on those mountains, and I'm having a terrible time with them.
You gotta get your purple up there.
Purple.
Okay, because you got it pretty well laid in.
Or you
Now you see, whenever I pull out a new brush, I always swish it through the turp, the solvent, whatever you want to call it, because I have a conditioner on the brushes, and to me that's an important thing. It takes 5 minutes when you finish painting, but clean your brushes and put a conditioner on them, or they're not going to act the same way the next day that you paint with them. So get used to that, get into that habit.
What do you use as a conditioner?
Baby oil.
Baby oil, huh?
They have some real expensive things that you can use.
Oh,
And baby oil makes you smell good.
yeah.
Break back.
And, okay, so it's okay to lose your cool. You've heard me say that before. It's okay to lose your cool. In other words, but if you can't, you can regain your cool, but you can't regain your warmth. Why?
Why?
Transparency.
You can't put
Uh,
In oil you can't.
Okay.
I don't know.
I like them because I'll
But
try
for
them.
some reason, I can paint my cools over my warms and they
Yeah.
read as warm, as cool. But I can't paint my warms over my cools and have them read as warm.
Transparency, it's a darker color.
Maybe transparency,
Yeah.
but most of your warms, your yellows, name a transparent yellow.
But sometimes.
Aren't very many.
Aurelian is transparent?
Okay, that's a watercolor.
Oh, okay. Never in an oil?
Indian
Yeah, your
yellow?
Hansa yellows and then some phthalo yellows put out by a couple of companies are somewhat transparent, but there's enough of them, they're not transparent like your blues here. You have some blues, ultramarine is very transparent. But you can't get a cerulean transparent no matter what medium or turf you mix it with. That was a good question. I don't know the answer. All I know is it works. It works for me. And try it, and if it doesn't work for you, don't do it.
That's right.
I'm just kidding. What is driving me nuts about this the most right now?
Well, what's driving me is the fact that you've got the green, and then you have mountains, and there's like, there should be something joining what's up front to what's up in the back.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's said in the same, I have one word that I can take care of that.
Depth.
No, that's the second one.
Your values.
Big word, small word.
Sounds like
I don't
3
know.
syllables.
shells.
Oh, did he say 3?
One word values.
Yeah.
And that was what was bothering me. I had this dark value over here, which was nice.
Yeah.
See, I'm reaching over here and I'm grabbing, I don't even look. I'm just grabbing something dark. I don't care.